Hi everyone, Stepan here. Welcome to game 94. We're playing Geromichi, who has joined a year ago from Malaysia. Come on, Geromichi, make a move. Okay, the last game was really fun. It was full of blunders and definitely not precise. I don't remember making 5 blunders in a game ever, and my opponent made a couple as well, but it was a crushing attack. I managed to play out sacrificing 2 pieces, so I was really happy. I normally never do that. Oh, this is gonna be an exchange Slav. No crushing attacks here. No, why would you play this? Ugh. Okay, let's go knight f6 to prevent e4 lines. This is, I'm gonna try to make it interesting. Maybe my opponent does too, but I'll definitely try to make it interesting. Okay, nice. Okay, g3. It's not gonna be a normal exchange Slav. There will be no pressure down this diagonal. There will be no queen b3. I may actually decide to copy my opponent, although I don't really want to. Yeah, now if I go bishop f5, my opponent goes queen b3. Then knight d4. Oh, come on. Bishop f5, queen b3, knight d4, queen b7, knight c2, queen d1, knight c6, knight d5, bishop d5. That actually may work. I don't have to go bishop f5, I can go g6, but bishop f5, e3 maybe? Or maybe knight f3. Bishop f5, knight f3, then I have e6. And on queen b6, on queen b3, queen b6. Am I risking too much? Wait, am I hanging e4? No, I'm not. Bishop f5, knight d5, e4. Yeah, I am. Oh, bishop f5, knight d5, e4. Bishop e4. Seems okay. Okay, I am playing bishop f5. I don't have to, but I will, because d4 is hanging, and after knight f3 I have e6. On knight d5 I can take, and on e4 take, and d4 is loose and isolated. So I think this works. Okay, now I have to go e6, and on queen b3 I have to go queen b6 or queen c7. I don't want to go queen c7 because of bishop f4. I also don't have rook b8 because of bishop f4. Although I could have rook b8. So queen b3, rook b8, bishop f4, bishop d6, knight b5 takes seems fine. Okay, now, either bishop d6 that runs into knight b5 or a6, preparing bishop d6. I like a6. But then bishop f4 comes. Bishop d6, queen b3, rook b8. Okay, I am playing a6. I need to prepare bishop d6 to challenge this bishop on f4 and to develop. I don't want to play bishop e7, and knight b5 is very worrying. Also, I'm preparing the classical b5 and so on. When there is one open line, you want to fight for the c4 square and prevent knight a4 to defend c5. And also I'm expanding, so a6 is a useful move in general, not just preventing knight b5. It does make knight a4 stronger, but for the moment knight a4, knight c5 doesn't concern me that much. I could go knight d7, I could go, well, for example, knight a4, bishop d6, knight c5, rook b8, and then I can play knight d7 most likely, because a3 still has not been played. Therefore b4 is unplayable. I know that I'm delaying castling for a while, but I want my bishop on the best diagonal, and that's definitely h2 b8. A bishop on e7 would be slightly misplaced, I think. Not because I have some pressure on h2 and g3, but because I'm preventing bishop f4, which is the most natural square for my opponent's bishop. I'm never afraid of bishop g5. In fact, I can chase that away with h6 straight away, recapture with the g-pawn, control the e5 square. e5 is a very tender square in this structure, so if my opponent ever takes on f6, gf6 secures e5 forever, and that's especially useful if I haven't committed my king yet. Now in this case, knight h4 doesn't work because I have bishop g4, and on h3 bishop h5, and on g4 knight d7, and the knight on h4 is hanging to the queen, so the best move would be knight f3 followed by bishop g6, and the question is, why did my opponent move his pawns to h3 and g4 and waste 2 tempi on the knight? So I think I'm safe. The thing that worries me most is knight a4, but it doesn't really worry me. And I'm up 2 minutes on the clock. That's good. I should say that at some point, some people may come to my house. They are going to buy a piece of furniture, basically. They said they would come between 10 and noon. It's 9:30 now. If they come early, I don't know what I will do, because I have to help the guy carry that downstairs. So we will see. I actually forgot about that before starting the game. Let's hope they come after I finish, or that, well, maybe the guy is strong enough to carry it himself and Lucia can greet them. I don't know. Yeah, bishop f4 is what I was afraid of, but now I can play bishop d6 without running into knight b5. That's why I played a6. If I had played bishop d6 first, then knight b5, I basically have to go bishop b8, shutting in my rook. Oh, that's interesting. Interesting choice. I'm very tempted to take. In fact, I don't see how my opponent defends the b2 pawn. So bishop takes, knight takes, pawn takes, knight d7. You either go queen d4 or you go f4. If you go f4, I have queen b6 check. King moves, queen b2, and the knight on c3 is hanging, and b1 is covered by the bishop. So bishop e5, d5, same problem. Knight d7, and you have to go queen d4, but you cannot go queen d4, you lose a pawn. Yeah, okay, this, I don't think this is good. I think I either win the b2 pawn or I win the e5 pawn. Normally you don't want to take on e5 if there is a knight on e5, but now how do you save your e-pawn? I don't think you save your e-pawn. Yeah, I'm just winning a pawn. And I didn't even give up the bishop pair. Okay, my opponent wants to go e4. I can see that, but it doesn't really concern me because I can take on f3. Okay, is there a queen a4? So knight c takes, knight takes, knight takes, e4 takes, knight takes, knight c6. Yeah, this is fine. This is perfectly fine. Oh, maybe there is queen d4. Maybe there is queen d4, and then I have to go queen f6. Okay, that's interesting, because on queen f6, I'm threatening knight f3, winning the queen. Okay, yeah, I can take. On e4 immediately I can play knight takes f3. So knight e5, queen d4, queen f6 seems winning to me because my opponent has wasted a full tempo. on queen d4. Okay. Now, I'm guessing I take, and on queen a4 I go knight c6, and there is no time to play bishop c6 because my opponent still hasn't recaptured on e4, so I take, definitely. Queen a4, knight c6, knight e4. Oh, yeah, I am gonna trade queens. Why wouldn't I trade queens? Because my opponent has knight d6, winning my knight. So takes, takes. I'll have doubled f-pawns. That's not ideal, but there isn't much I can do. So let's have a long think here. So if I go queen d1, then rook a d1, queen d1, rook a d1, castles, knight d6, knight c6, knight f5, ef5. Either rook to d7 seems very ugly. Then again, my other options are to castle, and then on knight d6, can I go queen f6? I don't think so. Can I go knight d3? Knight d3, queen a4, b5, knight f6 check. Ugh. But wait, knight f6 is okay. Queen d3, knight d3, queen a4, b5, knight f6, gf6, bishop a8, queen a8. Seems good. Knight d3, well, if not queen a4, then what? Knight d3, maybe rook e3. Knight d3, rook e3. Yeah, knight d3 is stupid. Okay, let's have a look at castles. Castles, knight d6. Knight c6 loses the pawn on b7 or on c6. So that doesn't work. So can I go... No, I have to either castle or take the queen. I don't see an alternative. Because knight d6 is too strong. Unless I trade queens and take the knight. So queen d1, rook a d1, bishop e4, bishop e4. Rook b8, bishop b7, rook b7, rook e5. And of course on bishop h7, I have knight f3 check. So let's have a look at that again. Queen d1, rook a d1, bishop e4, bishop e4. Rook b8. If rook b7, then rook b7, rook e5, rook b2. I'm up a pawn. If bishop h7, then knight f3 winning. Okay, that seems good. That seems good. That seems good. And if my opponent takes on e4 with the rook, I don't know, I go knight c6. Okay, take on e4, bishop e4, rook b8. I just couldn't allow knight d6 because it forks my king and pawn, and if I castle, then knight d6. Oh, takes with the rook. Interesting. Interesting. Okay, knight c6 seems forced. I don't see an alternative. If rook c4, I go rook c8. This is the only way I could see that holds on to my extra pawn. It's, I wouldn't say this is any more than equal. Okay, so rook c8. Do I go rook c8? I could go knight a5. I don't want to go knight a5. So, okay, so rook c8. If rook c1, do I just give up a pawn? I'll probably have to give up a pawn. Okay, rook c8, rook dc1, king d7. Rook d1, king c7. That seems to work. That seems to work. I will go rook c8, keeping my pawn for now. If not rook c1, then I probably hold on to my pawn, but then rook d7 is coming. So I don't go castles, I go king e7. I need to guard the d7 square. Takes, interesting. I don't think that works. I don't think my opponent should have given up his bishop, because now I'm in rook endgame, a pawn up. And I definitely stand the chance. Because I have time for king d7. No, I don't have time for king d7. What am I saying? There's rook d6. Jesus. Yeah, there's rook d6. All right. So I'm guessing this is going to be equal. I didn't see rook d6. Yeah, okay, this is a draw. I mean, both sides can lose, but are you not taking the pawn? Okay, so now the question is, do I play rook a8? Because I don't want to play rook a8. I may have to play rook a8. If I go rook b8, then b3, a5. Yeah, that keeps my rook active. I don't want a passive rook. So rook b8, b3, a5, rook a6, rook b5. That way my rook is active. Yeah, I don't think I should play rook a8. I'm not gonna play rook a8. That's too passive. My opponent's outside passed pawn, if they go for the trade, the rook is going to be in front of the pawn, and that's, yeah, no, this is just a technical draw. This is a very easy technical draw, even if I didn't have the e-pawn. My king just needs to stay on these two squares to prevent any tricks. Yeah, this is easy as it gets. So let's go h5. They can push the pawn all they want, but the point is, when the pawn reaches a7, my king stays on these two squares and there are no tricks, and that's the end of the game. You want your rook behind the pawn. If the rook is behind the pawn, you are immediately winning, whether I have this pawn or not. If the rook is in front of the pawn, then it's a draw. So yeah. Let's just get this over with. The only trick you mustn't fall to is to leave these two squares. If you leave these two squares, you can lose. Other than that, it's a simple draw. I actually won't offer a draw so you can see this played out. But yeah, I've actually done this with 3 students of mine. And yeah, we went through this pattern several times until all of them were well versed in defending this position. As I said, even if I didn't have the e-pawn, it would still be a draw. There is just no way to make progress. Now I can also wait with my rook. it doesn't matter what I do. I can go rook a1, rook a2, rook a1, rook a2. But these are the two safe squares. The point is, if your king goes to f7, there is rook h8. And if you take the pawn, there is rook h7, check, winning the rook. And if you move up to the third rank, anywhere, then check and queens. So these are the only two safe squares. And I bet my opponent knows this. They are almost 2300, so... yeah, this is it. Okay, let's just wait like this, cut off the king. Again, it doesn't matter what I do. I'll just make moves. My opponent can do whatever they want. If they ever reach these squares where the king harasses the king, then I still just keep checking away, and that's it. If the king reaches b7, I check it this way, and that's it. I'm waiting. Very easy draw. But for your sake, I will let it play out. Again, if the king reaches a square from which it defends the pawn, so that white threatens to move the rook away, I just check the king away, and that's it. Now the king cannot defend the pawn anymore. It has to move, and then I move back, and we repeat. If you don't know this endgame, it could be very instructive for you. I've actually seen people, low-rated people that is, mess this up. Yeah, now I don't know, I can check the king away. I don't have to, but I could. Let's just wait. I don't care here. Oh no, let's actually... So they want to go king e7, rook f8. No, that doesn't work. Let's just check the king away. I don't care. The king can go to e7. Rook f8 can never be played, because both a7 is hanging and f2 is hanging. Okay, now this is it. There is no more progress to be made. If you go rook f8, I just take on a7 with check, defending my pawn. And we wait. Yeah, I'm not giving my opponent a passed pawn, so let's just wait again. I could have given myself a passed pawn by taking, but they would have had one on the h-file, misplacing my king. I don't want to allow that. The point is, keep the king here, keep the rook behind the pawn, and you cannot lose. There is no way to lose. Stay on h7, g7, keep the rook behind the pawn, and that's it. You have infinite waiting moves. It's not even hard to draw. I don't know why my opponent is playing on, but again, they have the right to, and it may be instructive for you guys, so I'm not offering a draw. Also, I've made a conscious decision not to offer draws unless it's like kings on the board, so I'm just not going to be offering draws. I'm going to try to fight in drawn endgames where my opponent is playing for a win, because I did manage to turn one of those around. And I'm always going to try to win, regardless of how equal it is. Even if it's king and pawn versus king with a simple opposition, I'm going to be playing for a win. I want to approach equal endgames like Gukesh. He plays them out against Magnus, I don't know, he played them out against Dingliren. He doesn't care. You can always win. He did win the final game of the World Championship in a dead drawn endgame. So if he can win against the 2800, why wouldn't I be able to win on Lichess? Also, you gain experience by playing. I don't know what my opponent's trying to do. There are just no ideas here. You can take on h5, you can play g5, you can play f4, f5, it doesn't change anything. As long as I keep my king on h7, g7, you're not making progress. Okay, let's recapture that pawn, of course. And still, nothing's changing. Now you have f4, f5, and that's it. I'll just take. I mean, it doesn't matter. If they go crazy, they could lose. They need to repeat with the king now. Just, I don't know, king d6. Again, my king mustn't step here. We wait. And that's it. That was the final move. I don't think there are any other moves other than king d6. La 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 la. It's also polite not to offer a draw if you're the one defending technically. Not that I'm down material, but my opponent has an outside passed pawn, so I am the one defending. I think it's polite to keep playing until your opponent offers a draw. And again, if the king threatens to defend the pawn, just check it away and then move back. If you haven't read Jesus de la Villa's book, 100 Endgames You Should Know, you should get that book. Don't read it like a chess book. Don't read it like a novel, I wanted to say. Just... Okay, I'll wait like this. Don't read it like a novel. Treat it like an index of positions you can study when you need it. And this endgame is explored in detail, of course, in that book. And yeah, you will learn it. Basically, the best way to win this is to have your rook behind the pawn. If, let's say, the black rook was on a8 and the white rook was on a1, white would be immediately winning because I would be in Zugzwang. If the rook is in front of the pawn and my rook is behind, then it's a dead draw. If the rook defends laterally, then it could go either way. It really depends on some other aspects of the position. Yeah, my opponent needs to be careful now, because if they go f5, I win that pawn with check and takes, and then I could be playing for a win. Oh, come on. Okay, now he should offer a draw, I think. I think I've proven that I can hold this, that I'm never going to blunder, so if I were him, I would offer a draw here, because this is as dead as it gets. You can play f5 and maybe lose. Here, let's just wait. Now f5, I think, gives black excellent chances. Because I go rook a5, check, and take the pawn. I take it with a pawn, unless the king lines up for a check, then I take with the rook. Yeah. Okay, so this is game, what, 94? I was up a pawn, but it was a pretty simple game, and I don't think I ever stood a chance. I found a way to keep the material on the board, but I just... Yeah, I actually blundered rook d6. I didn't see that my opponent can easily take the pawn back. Okay, come on. Is he finally repeating? Good. Okay, so let's analyze. I don't think I ever stood a chance. What is this? What is this is the sign for repetition. Let me just expand the thing so that you can see. Okay, so that you can see the evaluations as well. All right, now let's go from the beginning. So this position, it's really rare in the exchange Slav to play g3. I don't think I've ever seen that. Okay, knight c6, bishop g2. Is bishop f5 correct? I'm guessing it has to be. Yeah, bishop f5, knight f3, e6 must be correct. Knight h4 doesn't really work. I was gonna go bishop g4. Let's just see. Bishop g4, and then on h3, this is the pattern I was talking about. If g4, then knight d7. And usually black has an advantage here. But apparently there is e4. Wow. e4, queen h4, ed5. That's crazy. This works? Wow, okay. That's crazy. I didn't see that. Okay, my opponent played castles. I played a6, so it's no longer good for black. It's equal. I should have gone bishop d6, but I was afraid of bishop d6, knight b4, bishop c8, knight b5, bishop c8. Bishop b8, excuse me. I didn't want to lock in my rook. But apparently I could have done this. Okay, so a6, bishop d6, takes, knight d7, knight d4, that's interesting. I definitely wouldn't have taken the pawn on knight d4. Okay, takes, e4, d4, knight e4. And I'm guessing everything is equal. Yeah. Knight c6, rook c4, rook c8, bishop c6. Wait, okay, I thought it said rook c6. Rook c6, rook c6, b. Yeah, there's rook d6. And even if they don't play rook d6, it's equal. I know that. Okay, king e7 here. Yeah, now it's just dead. My opponent shouldn't have taken on a6. They should have gone b3, keeping some chances. I would have gone a5 and then something, let's say king g2 and rook b5. And I think they have better chances here than in that other endgame. This is just dead. And I'm sure I haven't made a single mistake. And I'll just briefly go through the moves. It's just a well-known drawn position. If you know the patterns, you really cannot go wrong. Just see 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 and 0 repetition. Yeah, so learn this endgame. I hope you learned it from here. Wow, look at the accuracy. That's insane. So okay, we both played a perfect game. How can it be a perfect game by my opponent if they played g3, which gives black the advantage? I don't think this is that accurate. This is crazy. I've never seen this. 99-99. Even though they played g3. How is this not inaccurate? It's not a theoretical move. Black is already more than equal. I don't know. I don't think I made any inaccuracies. I think I played perfectly, but all of my moves were, especially in the endgame, very simple and pretty much the only moves. I don't know. In any case, it was an interesting endgame. I hope you learned something. Let me know what you think and stay tuned for more chess. Bye bye.